These are homes managed by private contractors, but they're on military bases. And some family members are at this moment telling their stories live on Capitol Hill. Ahead, the response from contractors and especially from the military as reporting begins now.
Breaking news. Shepard Smith reporting live from the Fox News deck.
Our reporting begins with a live look in Washington at a darkened podium for the moment, but the president is expected to speak at any moment now. That's what his schedule says, as we're just 2 days away from another partial government shutdown, which may be averted. A group of bipartisan lawmakers came up with a deal to prevent a shutdown. It includes about $1.4 billion to build barriers along our southern border. The president had demanded $5.7 billion. So the question is, will the president sign it? Today, the president said there's no need for another shutdown, that he doesn't want one, but he still has to see the bill.
We haven't gotten it yet. We'll be getting it. We'll be looking for landmines, because you could have that. You know, it's been known to happen before.
It has, and for now there's a lot of support. The House Speaker, Nancy Pelosi, the Democrat, calling for her lawmakers to support the compromise.
Support the bill for what is in it. Don't judge it for what is not in it. We have other days to pass other legislation.
We're told lawmakers could finish the actual text of the bill sometime later today. So let's get all the details. Team Fox coverage, Chief Congressional Correspondent Mike Emanuel reporting live on Capitol Hill. First to the Chief White House Correspondent John Roberts, who's live out in the yard. Hi, John.
Shep, good afternoon to you. Fox News has been told by White House officials that President Trump has not made a decision on whether he is going to sign this bill that's being crafted by this conference committee until he and the rest of the White House staff and the Department of Homeland Security have had an opportunity to go through all of the details with a fine-tooth comb so they can know exactly what is in there. And now we're running up against this deadline, and there is now a suggestion floated by the House Freedom Caucus, and I believe it's one that the White House supports, for another temporary spending measure, a week, maybe a little bit more than that, to give everybody from the White House to members of Congress time to take a good long look at what's in this bill, because it's going to run at least hundreds, if not thousands, of pages. Now, the president is not happy with a number of things in this bill. First among them, the fact that he's only getting $1.375 billion for the border wall. But according to White House officials, he has got plenty of other things in the bill that he is not happy with, though the president was declaring victory of sorts today. Listen here.
I think a point was made with the last shutdown. People realized how bad the border is, how unsafe the border is. And I think a lot of good points were made, but I don't want to see another one. There's no reason for it. And we're going to look at the legislation when it comes, and I'll make a determination then.
Now, for there not to be a shutdown, the president would have to sign the legislation by midnight on Friday, but the White House says he's not going to have it. He's not going to sign it until he has a chance to fully review it. So not sure if there's a game of brinksmanship going on here, just to wait for the president to drag this all out and tell his supporters, look, I did everything I could, or if this idea of maybe a temporary spending measure may be something that actually does come to pass. But the president not happy with the money that he got for a wall, but kind of happy with the overall amount of money that he's getting from border security. Listen here.
You know, the numbers are almost $23 billion, which you don't report too often. It's about an 8% increase over last year. So if you look at the total funding, it's almost up to $23 billion. It's about 8% higher. The border area is happening. It's going to happen at a really rapid pace.
And, of course, the president still reserving the option to declare an emergency, though that's something he said on many, many different occasions, Shep, he really doesn't want to do. But I think things are more in flux at this moment than they were yesterday. We'll see.
Interesting. You know, there's this talk of pulling money from other piles that were designated for other things. What are the guidelines about that to build a barrier?
You know, a lot of that is open to interpretation. The president has got what's called transfer authority, and he's also got reprogramming authority. If you're within, say, the silo of DHS, you can move certain amounts of money around, or you can maybe move money around between the different silos of Department of Defense, DHS, and some other things using this transfer authority. There are certain limitations on how much you can move, but I think a lot of that is very flexible. There's also this idea of whether or not the president simply has to notify Congress that he's doing it, or if he needs to get permission from Congress. Chuck Schumer says he needs to have permission from Congress. And then there's a bunch of baskets of money that the president could tap into if he declares an emergency. Some of those baskets of money are pretty easy to use. Others carry with them increasing risk of getting tied up in legal action. So, I mean, there's just so much right now, Shep, that is unknown, and so much that is, so many plates that are spinning in the air. We don't know exactly which one of those the president is going to choose at this point. Stay tuned.
Soon enough. John, thank you. Speaking of soon enough, we just got word from the White House. There's a weird-looking podium shot here, but the White House has just informed us that the president is running just a little bit behind, but we'll hear live from the president in just a few minutes, and we'll have the president speaking ahead of the shutdown deadline and giving us what details are now available. They've been working on this throughout the day, we're told, so looking forward to hearing from him. Meantime, let's head over to Capitol Hill. The chief congressional correspondent, Mike Emanuel, reporting there on the congressional angle. Hi, Mike.
Shep, good afternoon. The expectation is the House will vote tomorrow night, and then it will be sent off to the Senate. Leading Republicans are saying it is a compromise and that President Trump could then take additional steps.
They did listen to the experts. It's not as far as I would have liked on the amount of money. The president still has an option to put more money in. The question that you'll look at, does he have the ability to build the barriers in the areas the experts requested? I believe that will be the case.
Congressional staff is now putting the outline of this deal into legislative text, which can be a painstaking process, but I am told they are getting there. They don't really have the luxury of time facing that Friday night deadline, Shep.
Mike, any signs of worry that President Trump may, in the end, decide not to sign this?
You know, leading lawmakers say they're proceeding as if he is going to sign it. They are certainly hopeful that he will sign it, but the bottom line is, at this point, they're just encouraging him to sign it.
The president must not repeat his mistakes of the recent past. President Trump, sign this bill. Neither side got everything it wanted in this bill, but both sides want to avoid another shutdown. Democrats, Republicans, House, Senate. President Trump, sign this bill.
So you heard John mention that some conservatives are floating the idea of a one-week extension to continue negotiations on a border security package. It is worth noting, of course, the Democrats are the majority in the House at this point, and I'm told they feel pretty good about support where it stands right now, unless, of course, the president were to change his mind. Shep.
Mike Emanuel on the Hill. Thanks again. The president shortly. We're told there's a slight delay, but we'll get you there. American traitor in Iran. That is the charge against a former U.S. counterintelligence agent accused now of giving secrets to the Iranians and helping the Iranians target her own former co-workers from the United States. Here she is. Her name is Monica Witt, 39 years old, from Texas. She's a former Air Force intelligence specialist and a contractor who conducted secret missions overseas. But in the year 2013, she disappeared. Prosecutors say she defected to Iran. The woman who once swore to protect our nation is now accused of betraying it. Catherine Herridge reporting live from Washington. She spent years in the military and working intelligence, yes?
That's right, Shepard. And this morning, investigators told reporters that Witt's case is so egregious because she turned her back on her colleagues in her country. This 25-page indictment accuses the former Air Force intelligence officer of sharing a Defense Department special access program with Iran. These programs are among the most highly classified and closely held. After more than a decade working counterintelligence cases and protecting government secrets, Witt is accused of defecting and then working with Iranian intelligence to identify and target her former intelligence colleagues. Charges were also made public this morning against 4 Iranian intelligence operatives who are accused of supporting Witt in operations to hack U.S. intelligence officers, steal their identities, as well as online harassment. The indictment states, quote, Witt conducted multiple Facebook searches for U.S. government agents using Facebook accounts registered to various fictitious individuals. Witt created target packages for use by Iran against U.S. government agents, including counterintelligence officers. Shep.
Catherine, have officials said that they have any idea why she did this?
Well, Justice Department officials said this morning that Witt was driven by ideology and not financial gain, which is often the hook used to recruit current and former intelligence officers who are vulnerable because of heavy debt or bad personal situations. This morning, the Treasury Department also went after an Iranian group called New Horizon that ran conferences where Witt was recruited. During congressional testimony last month, the nation's top spy did not get into this case, but he did focus on U.S. adversaries using cyber to support espionage and other operations.
As the world becomes increasingly interconnected, we expect these actors and others to rely more and more on cyber capabilities when seeking to gain political, economic, and military advantages over the United States and its allies and partners.
And about Witt and the other four suspects, but based on all of the evidence, it indicates that they are in Iran at this time, Shep.
Catherine, thanks so much. Military families already sacrifice so much for all of us and for this nation. They exhibit enormous strength under uncertain circumstance, and there is zero question that they deserve this nation's full support. So wait till you see the awful conditions that some of them now face, right inside their own base housing. We're also waiting to hear from President Trump. We have just gotten word from the White House. Now he is en route, officially on the way to give this speech. We'll see whether he gives any update on the border deal that would prevent the government shutdown. A very quick break. Should the president show up during this break, we'll break into the break. Happy Hump Day. Glad to have you with us. Breaking left the White House before the commercial. Now he's made it to the JW Marriott, which is really just a couple of streets away off the East Wing, 15th Street and then 14th Street and then the JW Marriott. So he's in there. We're told he's on site and he's about to speak. And the moment he does, we'll take you there live. Some military families say their private base housing, again, private base housing done by contractors, is full of lead and mold and rats and roaches. That's according to a survey from the nonprofit Military Family Advisory Network. I want to show you some photos. These are from a family in Maryland who participated in that survey. They say a rainstorm caused the flooding, and that exposed lead paint, and the lead paint made them all sick. We've reached out to the housing company Corvius, I should say, and a spokesman tells us providing housing for our armed service members is a privilege, and Corvius is making changes necessary to meet the gold standard level of service both we and our residents expect. Well, the point is, from the families, they haven't gotten gold level. Some military families are testifying about their experiences today at a hearing on Capitol Hill that's ongoing, and Jennifer Griffin's monitoring it for us. She's at the Pentagon. Jen?
Shep, the testimonies we've heard today are heartbreaking in terms of the impact on the health of the families and children of the nation's 1.2 million service members and represents a major readiness issue. These photos are from inside some of the affected homes on MacDill Air Force Base in Tampa, Florida, and Laughlin Air Force Base in Texas. 3 of the thousands or so military families who have complained about poor housing conditions testified before the Senate Armed Forces Subcommittee moments ago. They blame birth defects and disease on the slum-like conditions.
I have felt the helplessness of a fellow Marine Corps spouse as she held her new baby and sobbed while we stood under a collapsing, moldy ceiling in her home at Camp Lejeune. I listened in horror as families at Camp Pendleton told of mice eating through pacifiers in their babies' cribs and electrical outlets catching fire due to wiring issues.
Constant sore throats, nosebleeds, brain fog, blurred vision, numbness, fatigue, debilitating headaches. Even the 4-year-olds complain daily of these headaches along with dizziness. Knowing headaches are not normal for a child of that age, I was concerned they may have cancer.
The Military and Family Advisory Network ran an online survey last month that received 16,000 responses from military families across the country, finding that 56% of those surveyed found living conditions in base housing was negative or very negative, with 6 base housing contractors mentioned over and over by respondents to the online survey: Lincoln, Balfour Beatty, Hunt, Corvius, Wynn, and Michaels Military Housing. We've reached out to those contractors. Some of them are testifying right now before the Senate committee. All of them responded and vowed to address the problems, but senators looked shocked as they looked on today and heard these women's testimony, Shep.
Wow. Jennifer, the housing system, tell us how that's set up.
Well, in 1996, conditions on U.S. military bases were so bad that the military privatized 99% of the base housing for active duty troops. Contractors moved in. It seemed like a good deal for the government. The Pentagon issued the following response, quote, each military department has processes in place to resolve tenant issues with privatized landlords, starting with contacting the private partner and installation housing office. If that does not resolve the issue, the resident can approach the installation commander and/or the local inspector general to file their complaint. All three of the military spouses we heard from in testimony today said the chain of command in the military had failed them. It was only after a Reuters news agency published an expose that they were finally heard. Shep.
Jennifer Griffin at the Pentagon. Thank you, Jennifer. Are you up to date on your car payments? Well, as it turns out, more Americans than ever before are behind. It's a serious problem, and alarm bells are ringing now. Plus, online shopping is leaving retailers in a real fix. Those big flagship department stores are dated sometimes, fairly empty occasionally, and some are actually going away. Today, the huge name in retail that's turning itself into an experience. The new for shopping, and where you can participate. And live remote, the president to speak shortly. In fact, I'm told that he is walking in now. That's my understanding of things. This is a previously scheduled event, which just happens to come in the middle of the moment when we're waiting to hear about whether he's going to sign the new border deal. He'll give remarks this afternoon, set to speak at a County Sheriffs and City Chiefs Association joint conference in Washington, D.C. And we're told, you don't know what will end up happening, but we're told that he will give some remarks on this now bipartisan bill that has come together. You heard from the orchestra playing there that we were about to take the commercial break. That's the signal, as you know. Well, the orchestra stood down for the moment. The conductor is seated, which leads me to believe that we're waiting for the president to begin. This was scheduled for 3 o'clock Eastern time, so about 20 minutes ago. But now, here comes the President of the United States. Will he sign the new border deal, bipartisan border deal, and will he give us a heads up on that right now? It's why we're joining live for now only on Fox. Let's listen in.
I have a lot of friends in this room. Thank you. That's a very fancy-looking table. A lot of very powerful people sitting around that table. Thank you very much, everybody, and thank you, Sheriff Judd, a friend of mine for a long time, for those kind words and for your outstanding leadership of the major county sheriffs of America. That's an important group of words. You've done an incredible job. I also want to thank your Vice President, Sheriff Peter Katujian, as well as the leaders of the major cities, chiefs associations, and Houston Police Chief Art Acevedo. Where's Art? What a job you've done, Art. I'm proud of you. Thank you, Art, very much. Appreciate it. And Phoenix Chief Jerry Williams. Where's Jerry? Stand up, Jerry. Great job. Thank you, Jerry. We're grateful to be joined as well by Acting Attorney General Matt Whitaker. Matt? Fantastic, Matt. I all appreciate the job you've done, and so do I, Matt. Very much. Thank you very much. It's an honor to address so many amazing police chiefs and sheriffs and superintendents from our nation's largest cities and counties. Together, you represent hundreds of thousands of extraordinary law enforcement officials and personnel all across our nation. I've come to deliver a very important message from the American people to you. Thank you. That's their message. And I think I have to say this, you have no idea how much the American people love and respect you. You don't hear it. You probably don't hear too much when you have to read it from the fake news. But they love you. They love you, and they respect you, and they really appreciate everything you do. So on behalf of the American people, I thank you all. And I want to thank you for what you do in defending our streets and keeping America safe. You and the officers have just done an incredible job. And you love what you do. You wouldn't trade it for anything. I know very few people in your profession that would want to do anything else. They love it, right? Look at them. They're all nodding. Yes, yes. You wouldn't want to switch with me either. It's true. You love what you do. And if you don't love it, I used to talk about success all the time. If you don't love it, you can never do it well. You'll never be successful. And that's one of the reasons you do it so well. When I took office 2 years ago, one of my highest priorities was to reduce violent crime. In the 2 years before my inauguration, violent crime increased by 8% nationwide, and murders were up more than 20%. The cornerstone of our strategy is revitalizing one of the most effective crime reduction initiatives in history, Project Safe Neighborhoods. This program brings together law enforcement, community groups, and local leaders to get the most violent offenders in the most dangerous areas off our streets and put them behind bars as quickly and easily as possible. Last year, we secured $50 million in funding, Project Safe Neighborhoods, and I'm proud to announce that we are asking Congress for even more funding this year, and we'll get it. We've deployed nearly 200 new violent crime prosecutors across our country. In 2018, my administration prosecuted more violent criminals than ever before in the history of our country. And we've increased the average sentence for drug trafficking to its highest level in many years. Through the combined effort of everyone here today, violent crime is now going down for the first time in a long while. Murders in America's largest cities dropped by 6% compared to 2016. The police departments here today have provided us with new homicide data showing steep declines over the last 2 years, including an estimated reduction of 16% in New Orleans, 27% in Newark, and 30% in Milwaukee. That's great. 3 places, that's a great job you're doing in those 3 places especially. In my administration, we understand that reducing crime begins with respecting law enforcement. We will not tolerate smears or slanders or assaults on those who wear the badge and police our streets. In order to keep every American safe, we are making officer safety a top priority, unless you'd rather not have that. Unless you'd rather not have it. But if you want it, we're doing it. And I know you want it. In support of that goal, more than $600 million worth of surplus military equipment has been made available to law enforcement. This is equipment that was rotting, the best stuff, but rotting in warehouses that a past administration didn't want you to have. Someday they'll explain that one to me. I actually have heard the reasoning. But you're getting it, and it's come in droves. And as we get additional equipment, we send it out to our great police. When an officer is hurt, it is a wound inflicted upon our entire nation. In my administration, we strongly believe that criminals who murder cops should get the death penalty. Every day, our law enforcement officers risk their lives to defend the lives of others. 1 week ago, Milwaukee officer Matthew Ritter was murdered as he led a drug raid. Last night, NYP detective Brian Simonson tragically lost his life when he responded to an armed robbery. We grieve the loss of these great heroes. Our hearts go out to their families and to everyone in the NYPD and Milwaukee law enforcement community. We will never forget them. Tomorrow is also the 1-year anniversary of the horrific Parkland shooting. We cannot imagine the sorrow and suffering the Parkland families have endured. Our entire nation mourns for the victims and their loved ones, and we pledge our unwavering resolve to work with the leaders in this room to secure our nation's schools and everywhere else. We enacted the Fix NICS Act and the Stop School Violence Act, which gives grants to schools and law enforcement to improve safety. My administration also formed a school safety commission that recently released its official report, which includes nearly 100 detailed recommendations that really work and really make sense, based on input from families, educators, mental health practitioners, and law enforcement. Now we must work together to turn these recommendations into reality. They're really good recommendations. A lot of common sense in those recommendations, and we need more common sense overall in our country. Nothing is more important than protecting our children. Today, I would also like to address an urgent and growing threat that impacts the safety, security, and well-being of every American family, the crisis on our southern border. So much crime comes in through our southern border. Illegal immigration provides a lucrative cash flow, to put it mildly lucrative, to some of the most dangerous criminal organizations on the planet. These deadly cartels flood our cities with narcotics that kill thousands of our citizens, ruin families. They use fear, intimidation, and violence to get their way, and they terrorize innocent communities on both sides of the border. There's only one moral course of action: to put these ruthless criminal cartels out of business, and out of business fast. Just 2 days ago, with the help of DEA, ICE, and the FBI, we have such incredible people, and you saw this. Federal prosecutors secured a conviction against the leader of the Sinaloa cartel, Joaquin Guzman, or El Chapo. He is now looking at a lifetime behind bars, and I have to say the prosecutors did an incredible job. Eastern District, incredible job. A lot of people did a great job with that. But to defeat these transnational gangs, we must fully and completely secure the border. That means more law enforcement, closing legal loopholes, ending catch and release, ending sanctuary cities, and finishing the border wall, which we will do, We're very far along, building a lot of it right now as we speak. As we review the new proposal from Congress, I can promise you this: I will never waver from my sacred duty to defend this nation and its people. We will get the job done. The wall is very, very on its way. It's happening as we speak. We're building as we speak in the most desperately needed areas. And it's a big wall. It's a strong wall. It's a wall that people aren't going through very easy. They're going to have to be in extremely good shape to get over this one. They would be able to climb Mount Everest a lot easier, I think. But it's happening. And we have other things happening, too. We're strengthening up the ports of entry. We're using tremendous technology, including drones, but tremendous technology. But it all hinges around the walls, because you don't have the walls, the technology is almost useless. It is the core responsibility of government to establish and enforce clear rules for entry and admission into our great country. These immigration laws exist to protect our families, our communities, and the security of our entire nation. When these laws are violated, innocent Americans, including millions of hard-working legal immigrants, are left to pay a very heavy price. When we surrender control of our nation's borders to coyotes and smugglers, heartache and suffering are the inevitable result. One of the most tragic consequences of our unsecured border is the terrible scourge of human trafficking and sex trafficking that so many of you folks help and work so hard to stop. But, you know, with the internet, It's at the highest level they say it's ever been in the history of the world. It's not just United States. It's in the history of the world. The Internet. So many good things happen with the Internet, but bad things happen too. We must use every resource at our disposal to stop this evil once and for all. The incredible patriots at Homeland Security are on the front lines of this vital effort. Every day, the courageous men and women of CBP are rescuing women and girls from trafficking, blocking deadly shipments of weapons and drugs, and tracking down and removing violent criminals who threaten our people. In the last 2 years alone, our brave ICE officers have made 266,000 arrests. Think of that. And these are arrests of criminal aliens, including those charged or convicted of approximately 100,000 assaults, 40,000 larcenies, 30,000 sex crimes, 25,000 burglaries, 12,000 vehicle thefts, and these are new numbers, brand new numbers, 11,000 robberies, 4,000 kidnappings, and 4,000 murders. 4,000 murders. Yet, despite their heroic public service, ICE and Border Patrol are subjected to relentless partisan attacks from those on an extreme edge of the political spectrum. It's called the radical left, and they're going further and further left all the time, and that's not good. It's not good for what you do. We condemn these attacks on law enforcement, and we salute the heroes who keep us safe. Uncontrolled borders not only endanger our communities, they endanger the men and women who protect our communities. America will never forget the heroes we've lost, like Corporal Ronell Singh, who was ruthlessly gunned down by an illegal alien on the day after Christmas. He left behind a wife and a beautiful 5-month-old son. I got to know his brother, and his brother's a fantastic young man who is totally devastated. Not one more American life should be lost because our nation failed to secure its borders. Every American in every community and from every walk of life has a right to live in security and to live in peace. That is my highest priority as president. And that is the sacred calling and noble mission of every leader in this room. Nobody does a better job.
The president making a little bit of news there on Border Patrol and Border Protection. Our chief White House correspondent John Roberts listening in. John?
Yeah, and the president speaking to law enforcement officers, and he had a few of them over to the White House yesterday. And he was talking about building the border wall, and the president insists that he is already building a lot more border wall than people would have him imagine. And a lot of this is just replacing existing border fencing that has become obsolete with things that are higher and work the